Okay, we're live. Hi,
Woo! Hello.
and welcome everyone. Hi, Jono.
Hello, hello. That's a fun little countdown. I enjoyed that.
Oh, yeah, it is. And the music? What do you think about that?
You mean?
It's awesome to see you all today. Thank you for joining us for the next little bit as we discuss what you should and shouldn't do in SEO in 2024 and beyond, of course. Join the chat, say hi, let me know where you're tuning in from. I already see some familiar names. Okay, that's awesome. So before we kick this off, I want to remind you all that you can leave your questions in the chat and we'll try to cover some of them in the Q&A at the end. And for those of you who can't stay for the whole talk, we'll be sending over the recording after the webinar, along with a webinar recap article covering all the questions we didn't get to today. So let's get this going then. My name is Lora. Hi. I am the content manager here at NitroPack. And with me today, we have Jono Alderson, a prominent name in the SEO industry, consultant to many, ex-head of SEO at Yoast, and the only ginger on any big conference stage I've been to. Hi, Jono.
Oh,
Um,
that's the important bit.
yeah, right. Thanks for sitting in with me today. Did I leave anything out? And what are you
No,
up
thanks for having me. This is super, super excited to be here.
So, what are you up to these days? Tell us a little bit more
Oh,
about your
who
project.
knows? Yeah, consulting. I think I left Yoast about 18 months ago. So I'm doing freelance kind of technical SEO stuff, but also performance optimization, which is something we're both
Yes.
into, obviously, bits of analytics, other stuff, structured data. But yeah, generally just kind of obsessing about what does a better internet look like? What does a good website look like? And helping people try and get to that. And speed and SEO are big parts of that. So yeah, this is right in my wheelhouse.
Always busy, always busy.
Yep.
So while I have you for the next 40 minutes, we will check where everybody is standing on some basic SEO principles, go over the global SEO newsfeed to see what's trendy and what's really worth your attention, and outline best practices and techniques to make users and Google very happy with your business. Now, Jono, are you ready for a Blitz SEO round?
Possibly. We'll find out, won't we?
Yep, this is this or that type of question thing, and you'll see. Just don't think about it much, okay? So, on-page SEO or off-page SEO?
Oh, I don't see the slide. Oh, there we go. On page, absolutely. I don't think off page is cheating, right? It's just going and buying links. You do on page well, you build the kind of content and reputation that people link to, and then the off page stuff takes care of itself somewhat. But yeah,
Yep.
definitely on page.
Okay. So, optimizing for mobile or optimizing for desktop?
I'm going to cheat and say neither. I think device agnostic, right? Like design for whatever device people are using, and increasingly that's mobile and not. So yeah, mobile, but more broadly everything.
Okay. So, next one is user experience or site speed optimization?
User experience, but only because site speed's part of that, right? A slow site is a bad user experience.
Yeah, it's a bit tricky, isn't it?
Mm.
So high quality backlinks or high quality content?
But same answer. High quality content. That's what earns you backlinks, right? Otherwise, what are people linking to? Like what a link is a relationship. It's an endorsement. The thing that's being linked to is the most important thing, and good content earns good links.
Yep, content people are celebrating here. So
Nice.
top 3 in SERP or featured snippets?
Featured snippets. I think the SERP landscape is changing. I think there are fewer and fewer examples where we see like 10 blue links and more where you see cards and tools and widgets. I think aiming for that kind of content and result and feature is much more sensible for the long term.
Okay. So now all of your answers are highlighted there on the screen. And I took the liberty and prepared my answers beforehand because I wanted to see if we have
Sneaky.
different opinions on any of those. And well, it turns out we don't. And this is first. I almost want to take a screenshot and frame that because an
Nice.
SEO person and a content person agreeing on everything, this is not happening every day. I would also love to see if we're on the same page with everybody else. So, guys, feel free to let me know your answers in the chat. It would be amazing to see that.
Yeah.
And now I think we're ready to jump right into the SEO newsreel. Is it trendy or is it worth it? That is the question today. In this section, we'll focus on several prominent topics that continue to circulate the media. So this is AI overviews, Reddit versus your website, Google's EAT, and AI-generated content. And arguably, the most talked about is still AI overviews. In May this year, during Google I/O, this new search result layout was announced. And since then, media and experts have kept a close eye on AIO volatility for US queries especially. And looking at the most recent news, we see that AIO shows for 7% of queries, calling it a new low. Mobile has also been shunned. And we're now looking at 6 more countries joining in the new search experience. And just for context here, AI overviews is now being tested globally. So this is not showing any signs of stopping. So John, can you start dissecting this? What's your verdict here? Is it trendy or worth it?
I think this is a symptom of something much bigger, which is definitely worth it. I think I think for a long time, Google have been trying to aim for this Star Trek computer vision, right, where they just have the perfect answer. And everything until now has been a kind of holding pattern until they get there. So 10 blue links and rankings and click-through rates and all of these mechanics are all a bit old, like they're increasingly going to go away in favor of the AI stuff. They did bungle the launch a lot. Some of the stuff was bad. They were very careful. Google is famously terribly bad at product launches, but they're getting there. And yeah, that 7% I think is up now. There are more countries voted in getting the results. I see it in the UK even when I'm not logged in. And increasingly, I find as a consumer, I'm reading those results and they're answering my query maybe better than the individual websites would. And either way, I'm not clicking on those websites. So this is huge. This is a transformation of the entire landscape, and we all need to be aware of it.
Yeah, and you just said that they're famous for botching their promos and demos. So we have a video here, a more recent video demonstrating different types of AI overviews. And as you can see, they do take up a lot of real estate on the screen, and blue links are deprioritized. So, Jono, are we in the testing period limbo? Are we going out of it? And are SEO experts downplaying the potential impact of AI overviews?
I think we're still testing it and still iterating. There's still a lot of bad results. There's still a lot of erroneous results, and I don't think that will change. There's also some interesting leadership shakeups at Google with the teams involved in owning this, because I think it's becoming apparent to the broader media that this is maybe not healthy and maybe not great. But I don't think it's going to go away. I think this is an example of the future that's going to become much more normal. And in that world, we need to think not about how do I rank higher for my keyword, but how do I be a trusted advisor so that my content shows up in this kind of information panel? And how do I become a recognized, trusted brand so that I'm the kind of content source that gets cited? This is a more mature, kind of sophisticated way of thinking about SEO than we've had before.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you would advise us to focus our efforts on definitely having a brand that is recognizable and trustworthy. And in terms of competitors, what can we do to make sure that we are up there in AI overviews against them?
I think a lot of SEO has historically been based around like writing articles for keywords. And part of that process is you do your keyword research, you look at your competitors, you see where their strengths are and your strengths, and you go, okay, we can write a slightly better article than them that covers a slightly better keyword landscape. I think that's no longer good enough. I think Google's not going to be interested in that kind of content. So you really need to think as a business that employs experts and maybe manufactures things or maybe offers services, etc. What can you do differently and actually better than your competitors? And where can you provide and demonstrate authentic expertise and support users on research journeys more than just summarizing stuff that's out there? You don't want to be doing 8 top tips for how to do whatever the thing is you're doing, because Google isn't going to need that or use it in these AI results. You need to be adding and creating value and doing that as a brand that's trustworthy. Your best SEO strategy for 2025 might involve running billboards and TV ads so that you're recognizable and reputable.
Okay, that's interesting. And as a content person, if I may chime in here, I wanted to quickly offer some additional tips in terms of specifically how to structure your content. So one thing that you guys can try is using the Q&A format. This is structuring content explicitly as questions and direct answers to increase visibility in AI overviews. Another thing that I will be definitely trying in 2025 is developing comprehensive topic pages. So this means creating overview pages that cover the entire user journey from initial research to final decisions. This is especially important for more complex queries. And of course, optimizing for better crawlability. And Jono, you are the expert here. What are the top 3 things that we have to do for better crawlability?
Oh, I would say there's one thing which everybody will struggle with, but it's that less is more, and that historically it might have made sense to go, we're going to create 1,000 articles targeting 1,000 keywords, and they'll each be 800 words long, they'll each have the right structure, and they'll tick all the boxes. But actually you might do better with 10 incredibly good resources, and cutting down your existing inventory and consolidating and doing less but doing it far better. It's going to be a hard pill for many people to swallow, but I think when you look at the kinds of things that Google will be looking for and the kinds of inputs that will feed these AI results and systems, it's those kinds of resources that will win, not kind of these oceans of mediocre kind of average length article pages that we've all been producing.
So basically forget about recycling the top 5 results.
Yeah.
Okay. So now moving on to a topic that got a lot of attention and criticism, maybe even rightfully so, Google seemingly prioritizing Reddit threads over expert opinion. It's important to reveal the bigger picture here, and I am referring to the official deal between Google and Reddit back in February this year. This was a planned partnership the whole time that aims to use the forum-style platform for further training and improvement in search results. Reddit even closed down access to other search engines. We also saw some interesting test developments in the SERP. So we saw some snippet treatments, and also Reddit posts ranking within 5 minutes. So Jono, again, the verdict, is this trendy or is this worth it?
I think this is super important. It's worth it. I think there's a bigger picture here, which is that the Star Trek computer vision they're chasing isn't always the best user experience. And I think they've realized that. There are types of queries and questions and searches where I want discussion and I want expertise and I maybe want different voices. And obviously Reddit is one of the biggest platforms that solves for that right now. Also, Reddit is a dumpster fire, and it is full of stuff that is not good and is not helpful. And the degree to which Google has preferenced it and showcased content from it where other content from reputable brands might have been a better fit isn't healthy. So they've gone, again, they've botched the launch, right? They're testing it, they're iterated, and they've gone way too deep. And there's some interesting questions about how much of that is because of the partnership. Is this a play to train AI systems on that kind of data? Either way, the bigger picture here, I think, is a few things. One is some types of keywords and queries, the best result is a discussion of enthusiastic amateurs or experts or a debate between people. And if you want to rank for those kind of queries or be visible and present, you will need to curate that kind of content. And that might mean having a forum or a community, which is not a small thing to do and maintain, or it might mean being present and active and engaged in those communities, which might mean engaging in questions on Reddit. It might mean having your product experts spending time on customer research platforms and portals and complaints. So having a community strategy, whatever that means to you, is definitely a big deal now. Always has been, but even more.
Okay, so now's the right time to be on Reddit.
Yes, either as a brand or as individuals, and maybe just researching it and understanding, maybe trying to actively influence, maybe having your own section on Reddit. The best approach is going to vary by company, but I think the big thing to watch out for, as we touch on here, is reputation. We see a huge amount of search queries for people searching, is brand a scam? Is company legitimate? Is coupon code valid? Those kinds of things, which might make or break whether a consumer transacts with you, goes on to make another search, trusts your brand. Those kinds of queries are where Reddit is ranking. So you either have to be there, you have to be influencing it, you have to be managing it.
Yeah. And I'm sure many people, even I, have tried to enter the heavily regulated space of Reddit and posting a helpful link to their website. I know I have failed in the past. However, there is a better way to go about it. And Jono and I just dig a little deeper into the Reddit space. And we found 2 great examples of how brands like Purple and Mint Mobile manage their subreddit spaces. Make sure to check them out. They're amazing. You can learn a lot from them. They have huge communities, huge followership. And it's amazing to see that companies are reinventing how they can position themselves in spaces like Reddit.
Especially conventionally boring industries, right? So often the objection to this is we've got nothing interesting to say. We sell cat insurance or whatever. Like Mint Mobile does mobile credit. Purple does mattresses. How much is there to say about mattresses? It turns out loads. It turns out that loads of people have questions about sleep quality and about which direction they should put their pillow around and how often should they change that. Thousands of questions and discussions and debates of which there are complex opinions, and they curate that and they manage it without trying to sell mattresses. They just help people, and they build a huge amount of brand affinity that then means when people are in the buying cycle on the market, they're prominent, they're recognized, they turn up in AI overviews. Even if they rank 5th, people see their brand and recognize it and are more likely to click on it. This is marketing.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. So guys, make sure to bookmark this and go to that after the webinar or whenever you have time, of course. The next big topic here is Google's EAT. And even though it's been around for 2 years now, website owners are still asking if elements like author bios, contact info, expert reviews will boost a page's ranking in the SERP. So Jono, I am tempted to ask you if EAT is the fix at all, but first, is this worth it or is it trendy?
This is worth it. This is existentially important. So the kind of stuff we've been touching on around having authentic opinions and writing meaningful, valuable content, etc., all of this is EAT or close enough to it, right? So I think and we'll come on to this, in a world where everybody is generating AI websites and content, and there is more regurgitated information out there than ever before that just says the same thing in 100 different ways. The thing that will make you stand out as a brand and as a provider is having demonstrable expertise, experience, authority, and trust. And that doesn't mean that putting a contact form on your website will make you rank better. It doesn't mean that featuring an author bio will make you rank better. Yeah, right. But what it means is that people who are researching and making purchase decisions or conversion decisions are influenced by content that is visibly written by a human with a name and a face and expertise who knows what they're doing. And that is hugely impactful. And people who are spending money online like to look at about pages and check returns policies and make sure that the company exists and these types of things. Doing this kind of stuff, whether Google rewards it directly or not, isn't the point. The point is that Google wants to rank sites that are trustworthy and that solve the needs and wants of users. And users want and need to see content that's written by experts and that they can trust. So this sort of stuff, of all the things you could do with an SEO flavor, I think getting this stuff right is the most important. And it's the hardest.
Yeah. And I remember we talked about a great example here, and I've pulled a blog page from Healthline. And I wanted to ask you, they do have the great elements here. We talked about author bios. It's not just about the element, but how you're using the element. And we can see here that we have a great author bio that's not only featuring the author, it's also featuring when was it last updated, co-authors, and of course, people that are reviewing this. So
and at the bottom of this page, it also has the entire timeline of the article. So it's like on June 1st, this person fixed this typo. On August 2nd, this person added a paragraph about this thing that was in the news, yada, yada. It is super trustworthy. I really like it says like medically reviewed by rather than just reviewed. They've done this not because it'll help them rank better, but because they understand that, particularly in the medical space, making sure that this article feels trustworthy is the difference between them and their competitors. And it's the difference between them and content that anybody else could spin up using ChatGPT. This is what sets them apart, and it's why they rank first for everything.
Yep. And this effort is also showing up as a great win in AI overviews. I recently saw a study where we had listed the top 10 most cited domains in AI overviews, and Healthline was in 7th place worldwide. 7th place.
Huge.
So we can learn a lot from how they structure their content and how they go about authority and relevancy here.
Yeah.
Okay. And when we're talking about putting people under the spotlight, Barry Pollard is a great example. Let me just put this up here. So Barry Pollard is not only the driving force behind Google's Core Web Vitals, he's also the spokesperson for Core Web Vitals. He is educating audiences on what Core Web Vitals are and every relevant question that you might figure out here. So he is a great example of how Google is putting faces and personal brands to help alongside the business brand, to help in educating people about complex topics. And if this is a topic you'd like to learn more about, and you should, NitroPack and Google joined forces last year for a webinar series that's available on our YouTube channel for you to watch whenever you have the time. Another great example here, I remember we saw is coming from HubSpot, and this is a podcast they did, I think, last year. It's a very helpful short podcast, is like 10 plus episodes, and it's featuring one of their employees from the Australia and New Zealand region. And I hope I'll pronounce her name correctly, Kat Warboys.
Sounds about right.
Very interesting. Yeah, that's a very cool name, actually.
Yeah.
Make sure to check that out, because this is also an awesome example of personal brand along business brand. And this is how you get your employees the voice that they need. And this is not, as you can see, not going only about blog articles. This is extending to other types of media as well.
And this is a really good example, because I think one of the places that many companies struggle and fail with this is they go, okay, we bought in, we believe we're going to create some authentic, expert written content. Let's go find somebody internally who knows the stuff. And it turns out that nobody in the marketing team has ever even seen or touched the product that they sell, right? So like, I don't know, Purple mattresses, let's imagine for a second they're doing this wrong. You've got this whole marketing team running the website, doing their SEO, and they're like, right, let's create this content. Who knows anything about mattresses? And it turns out that nobody does. So all they do is the same keyword research, regurgitate the same top 8 tips, etc. Actually, what Barry as well and the HubSpot team do phenomenally well is they have people who understand the marketing and the market and the product and the problems they're trying to solve. Yep. And if you don't have those people, I would be prioritizing how you find or create or elevate them, because those are your most valuable assets now and in the 10 years to come. Like, the content that they produce is what will be the difference between winning and losing markets.
Yep. And it's also the difference between genuine opinion and AI generated content. And this is another big topic we're going into right now. And it's no surprise AI is a dominant topic here. We already discussed AI overviews, and in light of the most recent core update in August, we see that AI generated content is still in the spotlight. And more specifically, the demotion of content that is overly reliant on AI or designed primarily for SEO. So, Jono, are we in for another trendy topic, or is it actually worth it?
This is a trendy fad. I think AI-assisted content is game-changing, and pairing the right people with the right tools so that they can research faster and they can spot patterns that might not have been evident and help get over having a blank canvas are amazing. But what everyone seems to forget is that everyone gets very excited and they go, great, now we can generate 1,000 articles a day and we can cover all these keywords and all these topics. And they don't consider that all of their competitors are having the same conversation, creating the same pages that ultimately these systems are then reading from and learning and regurgitating. And all you're doing is kind of creating this infinite scale of bad content soup. It doesn't really do anything or add anything or say anything. And it's exactly the kind of thing that Google is spending a huge amount of resources on learning to ignore. And we get back to the previous conversation about the thing that will stand out is authentic, demonstrable experience, expertise, brand trustworthiness, all of those things, which you can't just automate with AI. Like, there is so much incredible stuff you can do when you're working or writing or coding with an AI assistant and tooling system in place, but it is not a factory for outputting and producing SEO content and articles. Definitely not.
Yep. And also, I wanted to ask you, how much AI content is too much?
Ooh. So I've tried this both ways. I've started with, I have an idea in my head for a blog post I want to write, but I can't quite complete the idea or articulate it. So I'll dump my thoughts into ChatGPT and it will get me from 6 bullet points to 80% of the way. And then I'll tweak it and I'll tinker it and I'll extrapolate it and I'll finish it.
Okay.
Ooh, that was mostly written by a machine, but it was my concept and my ideas and it's still got my voice in it. I think that's absolutely fine. I think the alternate is bad. I think the idea that you go, I'm going to tell this thing to write a blog post about a topic and then maybe trim it back and try and make it feel human.
Yeah.
Again, you run into the same problem that everyone else can do that. There's no competitive moat there. You're not creating value. You're just tinkering and putting words on web pages. If all you're doing, if your SEO strategy at any point feels like you are just putting words on web pages, then something has gone horribly wrong. You need to be creating value.
Yeah, so basically you're being over reliant on a tool that is there to assist you, not to do the work for you.
Yeah.
I wanted to chime in here with a recent experience of mine. In my day-to-day, I also work with companies on content partnerships where we exchange expertise in each other's blogs. The other team in this case was working with an AI content checker. And it had become the only point of truth for creating helpful content, if I may call it that. And
Interesting.
what I mean here is that we had to continuously rewrite genuine author opinions so the tool didn't flag them as AI generated, even though they were 100% genuine. And there was some back and forth. And at the end, we found out that there's a disclaimer featured in the tool stating, and I'm citing it here, a score of 90% original and 10% AI should be thought of as we're 90% confident that this content was created by a human, and not that 90% of the article is human and 10% is AI.
Ouch.
So this was an interesting revelation for the other team, and also a great example of how AI content checkers should be used as a guideline rather than the rule. Because in this case, the content checker was really the only thing standing in our way to actually publishing something on Google. And rightfully so, the other team was afraid that Google is going to penalize them for using that much AI content. The problem is that this AI checker tool is not yet equipped to actually tell apart genuine human content from purely AI generated content.
And that's going to get harder and harder, right?
Yep. Yes, it will be. And in my opinion, AI content checkers are thriving right now, but I would definitely, this is something that wouldn't become part of my official tech stack in any way.
Yeah. Like so many brands are building these content production pipelines where they are producing stuff with AI and then trying to tweak it so it doesn't feel like it's written by an AI. You're like, something has gone horribly wrong 5 steps earlier in that process, because it should have started with how do we create value and how do we resource having expertise and access to yada, 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 yada. Not like how do we churn out a bunch of words and then make it look like they're valuable.
Absolutely. So now that we've covered the most hot SEO topics at the moment in the SEO newsreel, and we've dedicated the third part of our webinar to the big question: what does Google want from me to be successful in the search result? And this is really a big question, and Jono and I have prepared the foundations for you here, and we've divided them into 3 pillars that all site owners need to focus on: user experience, content, and reputation. And this is something that we've been iterating for a while now, for 20 minutes now. So it comes as no surprise that we are very interested in user experience, helpful content, and trustworthiness and reputation. So an important disclaimer here, though, is that you don't have to do it all. So over optimization is not the answer. You can mix and match according to your business needs, but definitely make sure to always include all 3 pillars in there. And because at the end of the day, you can win a top spot in the SERP or in AI overviews. But if your website is not ready to further engage the incoming traffic, then your SEO efforts are for nothing. So to simplify, your number 1 goal here is to set up to attract, engage, and convert. And the money spot, of course, is where great page experience and user experience meet. And
Nice.
what do we mean by great page experience? Following Google's guidelines, your website offers great page experience when you pass Core Web Vitals. See, I told you that Core Web Vitals are important. Offer an excellent mobile journey. You have to have a secure website, of course, and you don't overload site visitors with ads and pop-ups. And I'm sure we're going to have a lot of comments here about this one.
Oh yeah.
And as you see, this is of course more of a behind the scenes effort, is more technical. Preparing your website to be fast, responsive, stable, and secure. This is definitely on the technical side. But coming from a company that's designed to specifically optimize websites for Core Web Vitals, my top tips here would be to optimize resources like images, videos, and fonts. Like the weight of these resources
I look at so many sites as a consultant, and they're like, why is our site so? Help us speed it up. And every single time it's because you're loading a 6 megabyte JPEG on the homepage. And there's a bunch of other stuff, and there's tweaks, and there's things that can be fine-tuned. But step one is just check your images and fonts, please.
Definitely, especially with web fonts. I know they are optimized, like teams that are developing fonts are optimizing web fonts to be as lightweight as possible. But still, if you have 20 styles used in your website and you actually only need 2 of them and you're loading all of them, well, you have to revisit this resource and optimize for sure. Another big thing here is to cache your website's resources. Thank God, actually, most of the CMS platforms are now doing this for us and are taking over some of the heavy load. But using a high quality CDN is something that that mostly comes with great hosting or with some of the other optimization tools, but we can't skip it. So having obviously a high quality hosting provider here is very important. Lazy loading anything below the fold. This is very important. And as a site performance fan here, I always see people lazy loading stuff above the fold, and this is not how this is supposed to be working. So please remember to lazy load anything below the fold. Of course, designed for low-end mobile devices and poor network quality. And this goes for all of the site owners out there that actually have audiences that come from countries that don't have access to high-end mobile devices and the fastest network possible. Of course, removing unnecessary bloat. People with WordPress sites always tend to forget all of the unused plugins. We know these pile up very quickly, but please revisit those and just clean that up. If you have any vendor lock-in, make sure to also check this off your box. And also ditch the intrusive banner ads and pop-ups. This is a big one. And I know a lot of websites are relying on ads and pop-ups to actually make money and to monetize their content. But there are more elegant ways to go about it without interfering and without actually blocking people from seeing the content that they came for. And this is another problem here, but we're going to go into details first, not on the more technical aspects, but on the more front-end aspects. And Jono here will take over to share what are the best ways to go about content quality and user problems.
Sure. So we assume that you've built and optimized a perfect website, which is now the cost of entry, right? And I want to pick up on the ads and intrusive interstitials thing for a moment, because it's so important. When you look at the AI overviews formats and where Google is going, why would they send their users to a website that doesn't respect those users and just treats them as clicks to monetize? Why would they not instead just serve them a great user experience in situ? So if you're nervous about zero-click searches and the impact of AI overviews, etc., you really have to ask, why is my website a better experience than just getting the content in the search result? And if you don't have a good answer to that, then you have a problem. So part of that's technical. But the rest of it is the words and images and content on the page. And as we've touched on, historically, SEO hasn't done a great job of creating value, I think. I think we've been very, very good at curating and summarizing and repackaging, but I don't think many people have really sat down and said, let's look at the internet as if it's a library, as if it's a university, and spot an opportunity where we can add unique value from our expertise and our resourcing and strategy, etc. And that's really now the cost of entry when it comes to content, in a world where anybody can generate anything with AI, and Google's looking to reward truly valuable, distinct stuff. So yeah, again, if you're just putting words on the internet, it's not enough. It's definitely not enough today, and it won't be enough tomorrow. I think it was trendy in 2017-ish for SEOs to say everyone should become a publisher. And we kind of misunderstood that. Everybody thought that meant put lots of articles on the web. But when you look at what real publishers do, they do original research. They send journalists to places. They investigate, they clarify, they ask difficult questions. They compare things in interesting ways. They spot patterns. They discover emerging trends. They do the work, quite often with boots on the ground, to find new information and to create new knowledge. And the best of those publishers do that faster than anyone else. They break news, they move fast, they lead and define emerging stories, and they do that in situ. Now, I'm not saying hire journalists and fly them out into war zones, but I am saying part of your business and your content creation process should involve real expert humans interacting with the real world or content on the internet to find and create new value. And that's going to be existentially important for the next few years.
Yeah. And solving the user problems we mentioned earlier, we have several tips here.
Yeah, again, so much of SEO keyword research starts from keyword research, where you go, what are the kinds of people search for? Which of those do we think we can make money from if they convert? Let's make a short list. Let's create the articles. Actually, a lot of that is too late. If we look at how important it is to influence brand perception and preference and recall as part of these AI interfaces and answers and so on, you really need to be going higher up the funnel. You need to not just be targeting people who are typing in keywords that imply that they're ready to convert or buy. You need to be helping them 6 months earlier in that journey, when they start to discover they have problems, they're problem aware but not solution aware, they're frustrated, they have friction. The best way to do that is to find out what those experiences look like. So research and survey your market and say, okay, you just bought a new washing machine or a new mattress 6 months ago. What was the very first point of friction or pain or question that you had that started that journey, and what happened afterwards, and what did you experience? Go and create content that solves for those problems, and do it now, because none of your competitors are, so you can get ahead on building the brand that wins that vertical. And the nice thing about that is that when people experience and read and see that kind of content early in their journeys, that changes the rest of their journey. So the searches they might have made that might have shown competitor adverts, or the journeys they might have made that also compared slightly cheaper competitors, maybe who are slightly open different hours, all of that goes away because they're already bought into your brand and your ideology. This is just good marketing. And
I remember a story you told me. You were very disturbed
angry
by that one. And this is the fuzzy sound on TV, and I looked this up. This is a search that I did 3 weeks ago, I think. I think it has changed a bit since when you had that problem, but it was interesting to me for you to share what happened when you had the problem with the fuzzy sound on TV.
Yeah, so I talked about this in 2014, I think, and it's still not great. So my TV started going kind of brrr at high volumes, and I thought that's not great. Game of Thrones is already hard to watch because it's so dark, and if the audio is bad as well, then so I googled fuzzy sound on TV. Kind of what I want to know as a user is this the streaming platform that I'm watching? Is this a hardware problem? Is it a software problem? Is there a cable loose? Do I need an electrician? Do I need a new TV? Can I fix this in 2 minutes? Do I need to take the thing apart? What are the cost value benefit challenges? What is the right decision? What is my next step? What are my options? And the search results gave me none of that. They gave me some bits of fragmented help documents from a brand that wasn't the TV I had, some forum discussions from 2009 that weren't relevant, etc. If just one of the TV manufacturer brands had stepped in there with some content, not even the brand that my TV is, if just one of them had said, here are the likely problems, here's your choices, here's your options, etc. It would have changed all the things that happen next. So 6 months later, I bought a TV, but the brand of that TV I bought might have been the one that helped me. I would have been more like, I went to a big shop and I looked around lots of TVs and I thought, these all look mostly the same. I don't really know, don't understand the difference. But if I'd recognized a logo and thought, okay, that brand authentically helped me, I remember them, they were useful, maybe I might have been 10% more likely to have bought that one, 2% more likely, even like that is an investment in your likelihood to change somebody's conversion path. That feels like a much better ROI than just shoving more articles on the internet.
So for anybody, if you're watching this and if you're here and if you're in the industry, you have a very good opportunity still since 2014, apparently. And going on and following Purple or Mint Mobile, you have a very big opportunity here. So please help out the people with fuzzy sound on TV.
There's so many of these keywords and everyone ignores them because they don't have huge search volume and they don't have huge CPC. But these are the starts of journeys, not the ends of journeys. And that's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything problem solving is a big golden nugget for me and has always been. So I've been nodding along here and taking notes, and I see people in the chat are going strong with their questions, and it's the perfect time for a brief Q&A session. Oh, and also I forgot. I'm sorry, guys. We have some surveying tips here.
Yes.
The first tool is something that I've been using since last year, and I am not even using the paid version. I am on the free version, which is very limited, but it still helps me a lot to go in the right direction. So also ask.com is something that I can recommend. And of course, Jono here has mentioned before, Hotjar, Typeform. These are great tools. I remember also, Jono, I haven't done this, but conventional offline research. Have you ever worked with a company that has done that? And what was
years and years ago, and it was super useful, but it's cumbersome and it can get expensive depending on how you're scaling it with different audiences. But yeah, if you're entering a new market where there's not a huge amount of data, or you really need to validate something before you ship it, then getting a proper research process in place is valuable. But if you've already got a website and you're iterating and you're tweaking things quickly, then yeah, these sorts of things can usually be fine.
Yep. And I think a user research platform might be very helpful here when you do A/B testing, especially.
Yes.
This is something that is applied in the UX niche, but is also very helpful for SEO and content optimization. And of course, website optimization as a whole. I tried to bypass that, but we're now going into the Q&A session, and I see a lot of questions. It's the perfect time for this, and I have selected 4 questions we can cover now, and we'll be answering all other questions after the webinar, and we'll send it over along with the recording. So here's the first question, and Jono, I think this one is for you. How do you balance optimizing for site speed? This is minimizing JavaScript, image compression, etc., without compromising the depth and quality of content, especially for long-form articles that aim to establish topical authority.
Interesting. So yeah, we said like build those ultimate kind of resource pages that solve the entire journey. And that is going to be big. Well, that's going to have 50 images on it, 2 videos, a bunch of quotes, probably a bunch of adverts. I still don't think you need to compromise. I think you can do that and you can still make it fast. I think we've talked about some of the techniques, right? You want to lazy load anything that's not above the fold in the initial viewport. So that's your images, videos, iframes. Quite often that will include adverts. So adverts are tricky. Some networks are better than others. And sometimes they need a bit of configuration that people don't do. So most adverts can be lazy loaded, like don't start loading this until the user scrolls down to it. Don't load this if we're on a mobile view and it should only show on desktop. I would do a bit of checking with things like Google's Lighthouse and PageSpeed Insights tests to see if you're loading tons of advert JavaScript and things that isn't needed and cut that down.
And also, obviously reserving space for ads and banners.
Yes.
This is important here.
Yeah, so that the page doesn't change layout as they load in. Yeah, I think that's about like if you've got a really truly phenomenally complex and long page, there are some modern CSS techniques you can use to defer things getting painted by the graphic. No, in the real world, I see barely anybody really needs to get down to that level. You want to make sure that you make everything above the fold load super, super fast, and everything below the fold only load when the user gets to it. And then it really doesn't matter how long and complex that page is.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% with you on that. The second question here, let me just, I have put one bit of the question, but I will read the whole thing for context. I see lots of influential commentary from people like Rand Fishkin, I think should be
Yeah.
the name, saying that getting web traffic is now harder than ever, and it's best to try and be in places where primary search happens. But ultimately, if you want stuff or services, you end up back at Google looking for the thing or service to actually purchase. How do we balance increasing zero-click with lead demand generation for actual businesses?
That's a super hard question, and it's one that everybody in the industry is asking. We've built, all of us have built an economic model where you pick a bunch of keywords, you write a bunch of articles, you try and rank in Google, you try and get a bunch of clicks, and you try and convert a subset of those.
Yep.
And increasingly, that's not how that ecosystem works anymore. And so everyone is saying, now, how does this work? I think the bad news is that it's only going to get harder, and there are going to be more and more scenarios where AI overviews and similar mean that people aren't going to click on your website unless you're adding truly differentiated value that Google can't clone. So I think the thing we all need to do is really outgrow and stop treating SEO like a lead generation system. It's not an advertising channel. I think we need to use content and SEO to influence higher up the funnel and earlier in research journeys to optimize not for clicks and conversions, but for brand preference and recall, which you can measure, right? You can do surveys, you can do logo recognition tests, you can ask people which of these brands they prefer, etc. But that does mean doing actual marketing, and it might mean adapting your business model so that you're not trying to convert impressions into clicks, into conversions. Because this, like, and then the question touched on things like Reddit, etc. All of these systems are going to change too. This is not just Google and the SERPs. The fundamental way in which people are searching and the experience of search is evolving. And success in that doesn't mean trying to find tactics to get people to click your result. It means helping to solve the problems that they have way before they're at the point of purchase. So you've got to measure this thing differently. You've got to change your definition of success, and you've got to change the role of content. Which is huge, right? That's really, really hard. Many businesses will struggle.
And seeing huge businesses like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, we can see that all of them are starting to look alike in the way that they help people find information. And we see that these huge businesses are struggling to find new ways to offer content and offer their layout and how people are doing search. So this is not just a question about smaller businesses. This is something that is changing, like you said, increasingly so. Okay, the third question is targeted at smaller companies. And this is, what is the best strategy for small companies competing against franchise players?
Nice. And I guess also competing against like big companies, right? So a bunch of the consulting I do is for big companies. And without upsetting anybody too much, it's very frustrating because they have a lot of stuff that is broken and not very good, and it takes them an awful lot of time to do not very much. So that you have several advantages. One is you can move quickly and you can iterate in a way that they can't. They are going to do 4 things this year. You can do 4 things this afternoon, and you can do 4 tomorrow and 4 the next day. You can ship something immediately. You can try, you can test, you can roll back. You can tweak your business model. You can hire and fire. You can add a section onto your website. You can use cutting edge technology and techniques and stuff like NitroPack, for example, where it's going to take them a year to get that on a roadmap, never mind do it. So you can move much faster technically. You can also have opinions, which we've talked about, the whole EEAT thing and having authentic humans in front of a camera and on the page. That's so hard for big organizations to do because they're scared, and there's politics and there's bureaucracy and there's a whole bunch of paperwork involved. Whereas you can just spin up a web page, write an article about something you're passionate about that you have expertise about in a way that they will never do. You can create new value. They're cumbersome, they're slow. We also talked about less is more. They have an e-commerce inventory of 1 million pages. You could have 100 pages. You could choose to sell or affiliate or promote 10 products instead of 1 million. And you could have the best landing pages with the best content on the web for those products in a way that they can't resource, because their economic model and the number of people they employ and their share prices and a bunch of other things force them to compete on breadth. You can do all the things that these big companies can't better than they can. You don't have to compete with them directly.
Yeah. Absolutely. This is so true. And even you mentioned NitroPack. We are not the smallest of companies anymore. And we are very aware of how flexible we can be. And this flexibility is amazing. And you should leverage that for as long as you can. The fourth question is something that we get asked a lot.
I love this question.
Really that important unless it's really terrible and breaks the UX? And by UX, I suppose that by UX, this person is referring to design. The short answer here is yes. And I'm saying this not only as a person who works in the field since 2022, but also as a user. I also managed to pull some hard cold data here. Google and Deloitte did a joint study analyzing the effect of site speed on e-commerce websites. And this was amazing. And what they found is that a 1 millisecond, this is 0.1 seconds improvement in page load times, translated into more than 8% more pages viewed in a session, more than 8% more conversions, and over 9.2% average order value increase.
So
these are amazing percentages. And imagine what you can do if you improve your load times by 3 seconds. This is the result for 1 millisecond. And apart from this data, we also know that site speed and Core Web Vitals specifically are required for a high page quality rating, which directly impacts your rankings and how much you will pay for search ads, which is a big deal here. And it also happens to be your best friend if you want to increase dwell time. So basically this is keeping people longer on your website before they return to the search tab. This is very important for you and for your business. So you're with something as increasing your site speed with a single second, you can affect the entire customer journey. You can affect all of the steps that people are taking.
And it's not because people are consciously sitting there thinking, I'm really annoyed that took half a second. It's because they are slightly more likely to think, is it dinner time yet? Or I wonder what's on Netflix, or what was that noise outside, right? You're competing for subconscious intent and attention, and those milliseconds erode it, and they're more likely to get distracted or remember a competitor or go eat a Twix. Like this is, you're fighting for those milliseconds of attention. This kind of question genuinely makes me really angry, because it's reflective of such a terrible mindset that afflicts most SEOs, which is, what's the least bad we can get away with making this? And that might have worked until now-ish, but of everything we've said about the importance of your website truly adding value, and now your website is competing with AI-generated answers in Google itself, the value add has to be high. And if all of your optimization, like if you're looking at, I don't know, accessibility, and you're saying, does it really matter if people with impaired vision can't quite read our text? Maybe not. Okay, maybe because you're looking at security and you're saying, is it okay if some people's private information occasionally gets leaked? No, like you're looking at grammar. Is it like so having perfect spelling and grammar on your website probably isn't a huge ranking factor. But occasionally some people are going to read it and think, okay, this isn't completely trustworthy. Was this written by a professional? And all of these mindsets are like, what's the least bad we can get away with making this? And site speed's the same, right? What's the least slow we can make? What's the least amount of improvement we can get away with making? This is completely the wrong way to think about all of this stuff. This isn't how you compete in a crowded market where your objective is to win hearts and minds. It's not a strategy that leads to success. You need to be looking at this and accessibility and security and 100 other things based on what is the distance to perfect. What is the gap between where we are and the best, and how do we close that? A little bit today, a little bit tomorrow, a little bit the next day, and how do we measure that? And every step you take on that gives you another day ahead of surviving the AI apocalypse. The other bit I really like about this, and accessibility in all these other areas, is there's a side effect of unpicking it and trying to fix it, which is that you have to air all of your skeletons and dirty laundry, because nobody intentionally builds a slow site, right? It turns out that actually, oh, there's an education gap or a prioritization gap, or the CEO has some outdated opinions, or we don't have enough developers, or actually it turns out that our images aren't very good. And the process of fixing these things starts to fix a whole bunch of other business stuff, which unlocks extra velocity and revenue and conversion and user experience and yada. So yeah, I love this question. I hate the psychology, but yeah, turn this inside out. Like, what's the fastest we could make it?
Yep, absolutely. And with tools today, with automated tools, this isn't even that hard, because before people had to have entire teams of developers that are dedicated to that, and now you can make it much faster for a lot less resources than before. And with that, Jono, I want to thank you for the great talk and for the awesome tips that you shared today. With that, we can conclude our session. And I want to thank everybody for joining us and staying active in the chat. We hope you have a lot new ideas now on how to improve your SEO.
Yeah, some
and
great
most
questions.
importantly, that you feel confident enough to test some of them out. And to make your SEO strategy even stronger, I urge you to test your website for free with the NitroPack Performance Tester. It's a great way to see what business improvements you can expect with automated site speed optimization, and to see where this point of perfect is for you, and how long would it get for you to
Nice.
To reach that point. And of course, before I forget, don't be a stranger and connect with Jono and me over LinkedIn. We'd love to chat with you some more. And thank you all again. And stay tuned for the post-webinar resources in your inbox. Thanks, Jono. And
awesome. Thank you. See you later, everyone.
Bye, everyone. See ya.